Power Hour with John Lee.
So we're rocking now to Mr. George Forman. You can't ignore Big George, especially because there are two George Formans, 1 and 2. He comes out, George Forman, as a young man, as I mentioned him earlier because of the Ali fight, and he was a beast. I mean, he was actually, it was funny because he was copying his scowl from Sonny Liston, because he met Sonny Liston, and Sonny Liston was a sullen man, scary, and he decided to copy that. Because, he was a scary cat himself, George Forman, but he thought, I'll have that stare. And he came from the 5th Ward in Houston, which was bad, really violent, really rough. And one of the most violent and rough was George Forman. He was a bad lad. And he was very violent, battered a lot of people. And then mugged people, robbed people, He was a criminal. So he gets put into the Job Corps, which is an initiative to get people from poor areas into employment, And he did that, and George Forman was part of it, and it worked really well for him. It got him on track. That's how he got into his boxing, trying to channel himself, discipline himself. And very quickly, within a couple of years, became the Olympic gold medal winner. Just like Muhammad Ali won the Olympic gold medal. He went to the White House, met Lyndon Johnson, who was the president when black people were given the vote. So he became extremely, American, Stars and Stripes American. In that sense, George Foreman really bought into the whole ideology of it. And he becomes a boxer, a professional boxer, and just smashes everybody. Just goes through everybody. And he was terrified. And he was terrified. I mean, it was terrifying. Everybody was terrified of him, including the people that worked with him. And so he comes up to fight Joe Frazier, smoking Joe Frazier. Why is Joe Frazier not on the list? Here's why. Because in the fight, Joe Frazier, at the start of the fight, I'm the baddest man in the world kind of attitude. And then George Foreman just starts slapping him around. And he really crumbles totally. I mean, it's not like, if he did that to me, he'd batter me, George Foreman, but I'd leave my teeth on the floor. I would not do what Joe Frazier did, which is just get spanked about. And he actually, when he got knocked out, and when they had to stop the fight, he was literally trying to run away from George Foreman. And George Foreman caught him and cracked him like a naughty boy. So he's not in, Joe Frazier, sorry, you're out, mate. You get caught trying to run away. You're not in my fight in top 10 or whatever it is, ever. So then what happens? He fights Ali. As I mentioned earlier, rumble in the jungle, gets schooled, tries to give Ali the stare, the Sonny Liston stare. Ali says, "Oh, George, I was beating up on Sonny Liston when you were still in school." And then he proceeded to humiliate him. So George Foreman's ego was destroyed by that, literally destroyed. He had nightmares about it. And he decided to fight 5 fighters in one day for some reason, back to back, 3 rounds each. And they were all shit. He pulled them out of the bar, local bar, I think, pissheads, and just put them in the ring. And George Foreman beat him up. And Muhammad Ali went there and watched that and abused George Foreman all the way through. So he leaves it. George leaves boxing because Jesus comes into his life, right? Now, I'm not a Christian, but I fully respect anybody's beliefs. If that happened, brilliant. And he became a preacher. He became a Christian preacher. And, he lived with the Bible in his hand. Never threw a punch for 10 years until he had no money left. And then he had to go back into the fighting game. And this is where George Foreman 2 comes into existence in the late 80s. And it took him like 12 years. He was back in the game for 12 years. He didn't come back and have a couple of fights. He had a lot of fights. He fought Tommy Morrison, fought Evander Holyfield, and eventually he gets his title shot, his second title shot, I believe, against Michael Moorer, who had totally dominated Evander Holyfield, which is another reason why Holyfield's not on the list. And so George Foreman knew how to beat Moorer, and he did exactly what he said he was going to do before the fight. He knew that by the time he got to the 8th round, 9th round, Moorer would stop moving around and he'd be able to knock him out, and that's exactly what he did. And he was a big fat man, but he was a beast of a man, George Foreman too. And so he knocks him out and he becomes the world champion, and it's amazing. One of the greatest moments in boxing history. And I don't know how many years it would have been, but it maybe 22 years after he lost like that to Muhammad Ali to come back and become the world champion. Wow. George Foreman. And he had the George Foreman grill. So, yeah, 2 George Foremans, the first one ever to actually have 2 completely different personalities and personas in the fighting game, and then become world champion with both identities. So great. And his record was 81 fights. 81 is a lot for a modern era boxer. 76 wins, 68 by KO. 68, you knocked 68 men out in the ring. And we come to the grand finale. The man who can, the Gypsy King, Tyson Fury. Now, I'll be honest straight away. For me, Tyson Fury is the best of all time. Is he technically better than Muhammad Ali? Maybe not. But the full package, I don't think there's anybody who can beat Tyson Fury as he is now. The fighter that Tyson Fury's become, I think, would beat anybody in history, if you want to play that game. That's my opinion. I think he's too good. He's too big. He's too hard. So he's from Manchester. Boom, big up your chest. Doesn't make me biased at all. He comes from a fighting family of gypsies on both sides, champion bare-knuckle fighters on both sides. They all do it. He's got several brothers. They all go out in the street and knock shit out of each other every time they've got a problem. That's how they solve the problems. And he came up through that, became a professional boxer. He's never lost a fight.
So far happier man, but McDermott straight back into him, an uppercut, right hand, down he goes! Will he get up again? John McDermott, he'll try desperately hard to, looks at his corner. Skelton had him over 4 times now, Fury 3 times, and it is over! And it is Tyson.
Oh, lovely right from Tyson Fury again. Right hook's got him, and he is out, the Brazilian there.
When he gets that jab going and then he unleashes that big right hand, he has great success.
Right hand again, and Pakic is rocking again. Fury has Pakic in trouble. He's down in front of Fury, looking for the finish, but Pakic shoots again.
Backing up just a bit.
Yeah, Steve's almost done here. Look at this.
There's another coming and he's down. Cutting it.
Bell down to that low blow. It's a terrific right hand. Great end of this 3rd round. Good left hand.
So you can see his progress. I've seen all his fights. He gets better and better and better. And he beats Derek Chisora a couple of times. He's a good fighter out of London. And he gets his shot at Klitschko. And he's given no chance by the experts. The experts reckon that Vladimir Klitschko will just bully him, school him, knock him out. Not the case at all. Tyson Fury gave him a boxing lesson. He took him the distance and gave him a boxing lesson. I think he won every round. I don't think Klitschko won a round. And he got slapped about. And then when he's got all the belts, he serenades his wife in front of the whole world in the ring, and he can sing. On top of it, that's the most Irish thing in the world. I'll beat you up and then I'll sing. And I can sing. Love that. And his wife, of course, was being serenaded by the world heavyweight champion, so she's loving that. And it's a husband as well, of course. And so he goes to America. and fights. Well, I mean, sorry, he'd already been to America, but I just thought I'd mention he went to America and he had his big debut out there, and he knocked the guy out in a brutal fashion, and that's how he got the Klitschko fight. So he'd already been to the USA, won on his debut in brutal fashion. If you see that knockout, that was almost stomach turning, really. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. So he's beaten Vladimir Klitschko. He serenaded his wife. He's got all the belts. Loses it. Goes crazy. Becomes a big. And when I say fat, I mean really fat. Big fat cokehead on the cocaine, line after line. And he's out in Manchester, down Deansgate and all that, down the main drag in Manchester, getting pissed every night till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and taking cocaine and all that. Sad to see. And then Deontay Wilder makes a video and he's saying that Tyson Fury's finished. So Tyson Fury decides to complete the most incredible metamorphosis, mentally, emotionally, physically. He comes back. He was at suicide point. He nearly committed suicide, and he heard that. He didn't. And then he heard Deontay Wilder saying that, and you can see the videos. He's massively fat. And he comes right back down. He loses all that weight, gets his mind right, gets his body right. And he eventually ends up fighting Deontay Wilder, who's supposed to be unbeatable. So he schools Deontay Wilder. He won 10 out of 12 rounds. Deontay Wilder caught him a couple of times. Now, he knocks him down, I think, in the 8th round. Tyson Fury gets back up. All right. He's got the hardest punch in heavyweight history. It's not, he's on his back, arms spread. And Deontay Wilder's doing this. Now, this is Deontay Wilder, who's a man who's talked about killing his opponents many times. And he's doing this. And for all he knows, Tyson Fury could be dead. Tyson Fury's got kids. That's ridiculously disgusting, right? And he's doing this little jig, all happy with himself, because he's won the fight. But, maybe the other guy's dead. Do you want to think about that? And then he turned round, and oh, no. The big Jippo got up. Oh, that's right, yeah. I say that with all the love and respect in the world. Tyson Fury, the Gypsy from Manchester, grew up in a caravan, got up. The only man ever to get up from that kind of punch from Deontay Wilder. And he got up, and not only did he get up, there's nothing wrong with him. And then he proceeded to school Deontay Wilder, beat him up, smack him round the ring, embarrass him. So they had a rematch. And he comes out, Deontay Wilder, looking like some kind of trick-or-treating knobhead in a stupid, Halloween outfit, trying to scare Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, trying to scare him by wearing a stupid costume. And when he took his stupid costume off, he got battered. He got 7 rounds of beats from Tyson Fury. Smackety smack, 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 smack. Don't be fucking doing this on television, about me in front of my kids, because this is what you get. You get a beating. And, when I watch him in the corner after he's knocking him down and he's got him in the corner at the end, smashing him up, I can taste my own delight, because I love that. He's a bully, Deontay Wilder. He's a bully. And to see a bully getting what he deserves, a good smacking in front of everybody, that was tasty. That was great. And I'm not a vindictive person, but he deserved a beating and he got one. Nice. Well done, Tyson. And now that leaves me with the question, of course, that everyone's asking: AJ or Fury, Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, are you taking the piss?